all people mentally ill?
I have no idea.
Is this the Dr. Ray?
I'm out of work. How do I find a job?
I don't know.
Boy, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Now, why would I say something so dumb?
I don't know.
I don't remember what I said. Help me out.
I listen to you all the time. You're my shot in the arm.
Well, it makes sense from your perspective and your individual brain.
And I guess that's true, but doggone.
Well, are you better than God?
No way.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
Oh, no!
Great stuff, Dr. Ray. I'm glad I called.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Andrew Kruchek, producer man, you're going to have to be a little more careful in some of these bumper cuts. Hit the nail on the head, shot in the arm? That's rather violent. Do we have anybody that says, Dr. Ray, your empathic observation was reciprocally satisfying? Do we have anything like that? Do we have anything like, Dr. Ray, I'm feeling a sense of comfort and direction from your softly guidance words of wisdom? Do you have anything like that? Any remotely close? Shot in the arm? Nail on the head? Ow. Whew. Thanks for joining me here on the Not So Rough Doctor Is In. The program is your program. Wouldn't exist without you. That's true. That is true. There's no way I'm going to do this program and get on here without talking to you. I mean, I can do it. I can talk for an hour, maybe 3-4 days in a row. But then after a while, I'm out of here. But with you guys, it makes it so very, very different and much more educational for me, uplifting and knowledgeable. And as I said, I just so thoroughly enjoy some of the observations you make. And I sit here, you can't see me, but I take notes. Oh, yeah, I write them down. I say, ooh, that's a good idea. Ooh, I'm going to try that. That'll work. And then, after about 6 months of that, I gather up all my notes that you gave me, and I put them in books, and then I make a lot of money. So I just want to thank you. It's really, really very, very, very kind of you. You think you are helping out a caller with your perspective and your idea, and you are. And you're helping me out just as much. So the number, get onto the program, where I would very much like to have you be, is 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal. That's the number. Question about something in your life, some situation, some circumstance, some people, some perplexing, upcoming decision, all that. The majority of calls are usually about some kind of situational factor. However, we do get calls where people say, I want to make a comment on what our previous caller said, or, Dr. Ray, I want to tell you you are completely, totally wrong. And I've told my wife, quit calling. Let some other people get in and correct me. And then every once in a while we get generic questions. I like those a lot because I get to show off. I get to pontificate with magniloquent bombast. I like to use big words so I can sound very photosynthesis. Okay, a couple of questions that I'm digging into that people ask me a lot of questions, and I like to answer them. Dr. Ray, where is this? Do you have any fears, any phobias? Two. I have two. One is in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee, look at the mug, and I am afraid, nervous about the real owner of the world's greatest dad coffee mug is going to show up and get his mug. That's one. The other one happened because I do a lot of flying, on airplanes, that is. And most people do not like, well, I'd say most people, if they have a fear, it's going to be an elevator, not an escalator. It's going to be. I have had people who do not like escalators. They look down them and they just see what looks like this ever-moving, grinding metal on metal tunnel, and they don't want any part of it. But most people, if they're going to have a fear like that, it's going to be on an elevator. Elevators are crowded. They can be herky-jerky. They make people nervous. Maybe they saw a show once where an elevator snapped its cable. Of course, all the elevators now have automatic braking systems, so that would happen. But I am one of the rare people. I'm afraid of an escalator. Yeah, happened about 3 years ago. I was at an airport. I wasn't afraid of escalators prior to that. I am now. The escalator broke down. I was halfway up. Halfway up on the escalator. I was the only one on it. It's halfway up. And it ground to a halt. I thought, what do I do now? I was stranded there for, 2 hours before the maintenance guys came and got me? And I kept thinking, I hope it just starts up and gets going because I'm stuck here. Okay, think about it. I've had people actually ask me, really? Why didn't you just walk up? 877-573-7825 is the number. I definitely want to talk to you, so give me a call. A lot of speculation on why so many young Catholics, raised Catholic, baptized Catholic, maybe gone to Catholic school, got the sacraments, leaving the church. There's a lot of factors involved. Father Spitzer talks often about how science has misled and misconvinced people that science has all the answers and religion is just something we've outgrown intellectually. Okay, so that's one. Another one is I don't like the church's moral system. It just sort of seems kind of constricting, you know? I can't have physical relations outside of marriage. Oh, please. I'm 19 years old. Come on. So I don't really like the church's morality because it just is countercultural, heavily countercultural. That's another one. 3, they don't like the way they were raised, and part of the way they were raised was their religion, and therefore if they're going to jettison the way they were raised, they're going to jettison their religion too. Another factor. Here's one, and I'm becoming more convinced this is a kind of a silent factor. It's not talked about much. The young people especially are hyperstimulated. Everything they've grown up with is fast-paced. It's flickering. Images are flickering. It's on to the next thing. Go, get, do, have, go. That's their existence. Very, very fast-paced. Very entertaining. I get bored quick. Get bored really quick. Keep entertaining me. What is the Mass like? Well, it's reverent. It's thoughtful. It's slow-moving. It is, in many parts, predictable. Oh, we said this prayer last time. It's the same prayer. I mean, another prayer. And the priest is up there, and given everything in my life, at the way I want things to move, the priest looks like, lift up your hearts. And the kids are thinking, come on, man, who writes his dialogue? But get him gone here. Don't they have a stunt priest? Where's the special effects? And this, I believe, is in part one of the reasons why many Catholics leave the church and go into evangelical. Because I was in it for 8 years. The evangelical worship experience is different than the Catholics. Well, first of all, it's oftentimes much more entertaining. You got bands. You got big screens. You got people going up there singing modern Christian songs. You got a preacher that may be pretty good. I mean, he could be pretty interesting. And so he talks for 45 minutes because that's the bulk of the service. You don't have to kneel down. You can sit, stand every once in a while. But for the most part, the evangelical service is closer to the American style of entertainment, fast pace. I think that's a big factor. I didn't get anything out of Mass. Why is that? Well, it's just kind of so boring, so the same. Now, I know many of you are thinking, well, Dr. A, you got to explain it to him. You got to show them the beauty of the Mass. You got to show them if they put into it, they will get out of it. Yeah, I got all that part. But if they go into an evangelical, it's much more loosey-goosey. Okay, it is not as structured. It's not as worshipful. And I'm not putting down evangelicals. It's just not as worshipful. They're not there to worship God. They're here to, quote unquote, hear the word, sing the word. That's what they're there for. But in the Mass, there is very heavy prayerful reverence. And that just doesn't sit well with our modern sensibilities. And I think a lot of people, a lot of young people, once they get the chance, I'm out of here. This is the slowest moving, boring thing in my life. I'm gone. I see that a lot. And the church, she certainly doesn't need to change her beautiful worship, her worship handed to us by our Lord through the Eucharist. No, she can't change. She can't change that. But it does reflect a culture on fast forward. And the church, in her reverence and worship, tries to slow it down a little bit. Make you think and pray. And that's just something that doesn't sit well with a 17-year-old. A lot, anyway. 877-573-7825. 877-57-EQUAL. That is the number to call to get onto the program. Give me a call. We got some lines open. You'll get right on. I'm Dr. Ray.
The doctor is in. Now, don't you feel better?
Another year has come and gone, and whether you like it or not, Uncle Sam requires you to make an accounting. Perhaps it's time to call Myler and Zipka. They work with you to legally minimize your tax bill and identify ways to reduce future taxes. Eliminate the nagging feeling that you're paying more taxes than you need to. Call Ken Zipka today at 734-930-5500. Myler and Zipka. Integrity, excellent value, and people dedicated to a long-term relationship. 734-930-5500.
At Glass Doctor, our trained specialists are experts at fixing foggy and cracked glass, leaving any residential window looking like new without replacing the entire window. Bring back the view of any window with Glass Doctor. Visit glassdoctor.com to request a free estimate on repairing your foggy or cracked windows. Let Glass Doctor bring back your view.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your paint. Oh, yeah!
Light of the East. Weekends on Ave Maria Radio.
I am Father Thomas Loya. This week on Ave Maria, the Eastern Catholic churches are known for the richness, depth, and sometimes length of their liturgical prayers. However, two favorite Lenten prayers are actually short but poignant.
Now on Ave Maria Radio's newest FM stations, 105.5 FM in Southfield and 107.9 FM in Ann Arbor.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Well, until we get some calls screened there, I'm going to keep talking. I should probably do a look back on my own talking. Normally, we do a look back on previous calls. And then we look back on that call, and I say more about them. But I can talk, and then I can look back on what I said, and we can replay what I said, and then I can embellish what I said. Well, Eric's screening some calls, so I'll get this real quick. I've talked about this before, and it's gaining momentum. But I don't know what they're going to do about it because it's already it's like abortion. It's locked into the culture. Marijuana use among teens brings higher risk of psychotic disorders. Yes. Years ago we were talking about this. The stuff that's out there is much more potent than your daddy's marijuana. The THC content, the active ingredient content, THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. Got to say things like that so I sound really smart, even though I can't even name one of Mozart's paintings. Marijuana use among teens, higher risk of a psychotic disorder. Yes, psychiatrists have come out and said this. They said that they're seeing more and more people who are not using any other drug but marijuana. And they're getting these drug-resistant psychoses. I've even seen this informally among my own life situations with people. So, okay, but let me just do this, and I'm going to go to your calls. A study found teenagers who use marijuana are at a higher risk of suffering from psychiatric issues, news that has researchers deeply concerned. All righty, let's go help out Ann, who is calling from Texas. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Dr. Ray. How are you?
I'm fine, honey. Thank you for the call.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, what do you want me to fix?
I'm calling about my son. I don't even know where to start. I find him difficult to parent. Most recently, he had been in a little 2-day-a-week hybrid school. It was pretty academically rigorous, and it was giving him a lot of anxiety. So we ended up just pulling him out. And he just wants to be alone a lot. He seems to be scared of groups of kids. He doesn't want to do sports. He has a few friends, and I'm anxious. I don't know what to do.
Is he a behavior problem for you?
No, he is very strong-willed, and he wants to do what he wants to do, but he'll respect, if we give consequences for various things.
So you're a little nervous about his temperament, which is he's not a risk taker, and socially he's a little withdrawn.
That's exactly right, yes.
Now, see, Andrew, you never pull those ones where a woman says, that's exactly right. No, he always pulls the ones that says, you're way off, Dr. Ray. Always been that way, Ann?
Yes.
So it's kind of his nature, huh?
Yes, he has had type 1 diabetes since he was 6, and he's now 11, and I think that's affected things, too. He's pretty resentful about that.
And he feels weird.
He does. He feels he wants to blend in as much as possible, and oftentimes that's not possible.
Does he seem discontent in his anxiety?
He's much happier now that he's not going to the little school and we're just homeschooling.
Okay.
But I want to get him out there and doing things, and in my mind, that's being busy and seeing friends and groups and sports, and he doesn't want to do much of that. But he is pretty content at home, but he's 11, we're getting to high school age in a couple more years. What's that? How does that prepare you for adulthood? I don't know how to push him.
Well, let's not future project. Let's not look at this and say, oh, boy, he's this way now. He's going to be this way when he's 25. We don't know that.
Okay.
What we do know is without the opportunity made present and possible by you, he's not going to do it. He's perfectly content to sit in his room and read. He's perfectly content to just roam around the house and find ways to amuse himself.
Yes.
You can find things, I would think, to do together. That where you go, he's with you, and it's a possibility that he will connect with a kid there. Or say maybe you take him to watch his cousin's basketball game, and you guys are both sitting in the bleachers. You can do that. And then afterwards, you go to the concession stand, and you get something to eat. So he's out in public is what you're doing. And you're there. You're kind of like a quote-unquote anxiety protector, if you will. But you're slowly going to say, okay, we're not going to just retreat into the world of our house. That's not going to happen, son.
Right.
Now, I'm going to go with you on some of these things. We'll go do them together. But there's going to be times that, for example, at church, let's say you have something at church and you decide, there's a young adult group. Or not a young adult, but a kid group. Kids, okay, you're going to go on Sundays, you're going to go. I don't want to go. I know you don't want to go. Nothing's going to happen. Well, I won't say anything. I'll just sit there. Okay, well, that's all right. Suit yourself, son. Because what he'll try to do is he'll try to say, it ain't going to work, Mom. It's not going to work. You can't try that on me. Which he probably has already tried already, right? So, given that, you're going to do that. Now, the struggle is, how do you overcome if a kid has a certain temperament, a certain wiring, and he is not comfortable with any kind of risk, and risk is like talking to somebody. What are you going to do about that? You may never make him an outgoing kid, but what you'll do is you'll say, well, we're not going to retreat worse. We're not going to say this is the way we're going to do it. Now, you say he's happier being homeschooled, that he doesn't have to go to the co-op. At some point, you might reconsider that. You might say, you know what, son? There's no danger there. You may not be comfortable there. You may not like it there. But you're going to find out that it's not going to hurt you, and you may meet some kids there that you like. So I'm not going to let you retreat into kind of a semi-agoraphobic sort of state, which is what he would do if you let him, right?
I think so. He also doesn't like doing work. A little bit of a Tom Sawyer kind of a thing. So, it's never just one thing, right?
Yeah, you're right, Ann. You're right. There's when I talk to parents in the office, they come in with a certain presenting problem. In your son's case, the presenting problem is he's anxious in social situations. He's got a tad bit of social anxiety. But then as you talk to the parent, you say, well, he's not real motivated either. He tries to figure out how to slide around school. And if I'm going to get him to do chores, that's kind of a struggle. Yeah. So what I would do, and I can't do that here, but what I would do in my office is I would say, how then does he occupy his time? What does he do with his time when he's not being homeschooled? And then you'll say, well, he has a device. Oh, really now? I hope you aren't. Ann, you're not going to say that, are you?
No, we don't do screens at all. So
Good.
He reads, or he likes animals. We've got a number of animals at our house.
Cool. That's cool stuff. All right. If he goes up in his room and he's up there for 3 hours at a time, you might have to put a limit on that.
Sure.
It's a matter of, son, you're not just going to retreat into a cubby hole. And
right. And he's not withdrawn at home. It's like you said, and the bigger social groups, kids his own age. He has friends, but I'm, like I said, I'm concerned if this is the only friend I'm willing to spend time with. That's not.
Let's not worry. Come on, let's not worry.
Okay.
Let's simply say this is my kid, and this is what I'm going to do to help him be a little more sociable. Rather than, oh my gosh, he's going to be a mess. He's going to just be a neurotic mess. He'll be 19 years old and he'll be sitting underneath some overpass drinking out of a plastic bag. We can't do that. I mean, that is now so much a part of modern parenting, which is, well, if we don't get this fixed, what's it going to lead to? I don't know. May not lead to anything. He may get a girlfriend when he's 16 years old, and all of a sudden, everything he wants to do is with that girl. Who knows? But you're right. He's got a bent that way. Okay, we got that. We're not going to let him run with that bent completely. And you could tell him that. You could say, son, there's no reason for you to be anxious in some of these situations. And if I allow you to avoid them, you will. So I'm not going to allow you to avoid all of them. I'll set up ones that will maybe make you uncomfortable, but they're not going to panic you. Good luck there, my dear. This is Dr. Ray, 877-573-7825. Social anxiety is so big. I'll comment on it on the other side, and then we'll go to your calls, too. I have to struggle to relate to Andrew Kruchek and Eric Dumont because they're so much younger than I am. Now, we have a call coming from a gentleman. I'll get to him in a second. His name is J.R. And I said, as in J.R. Ewing? And I said, remember the show Dallas, which was huge show. It was about this very rich family in Texas. And J.R. Ewing was the patriarch of this family, and he was kind of a bad guy. And at the end of one of the seasons, they set up this situation where somebody shot him. And it was who shot J.R. Do some of you remember that? So they all just waited for the next season to find out, because you couldn't tell the way they cameraized it who exactly did it. It's all this speculation. So anyway, that's just a very irrelevant segue into JR, who's calling from Missouri. Hi, JR.
Hello.
What you got for me?
My question is, what happens to Catholics about an hour after they die?
Well, I would think, and this would be something that the church would teach, is whatever happens to a Catholic is going to happen to anybody a period after you die. Now, if you want to put an hour on it, we really don't quite understand how time works. Now, God is outside time. We don't know if we are. So that's a theological debate. But let's just say, let's take your question and let's assume that an hour after someone dies, where are they going to be? Well, they're not going to have their body yet. The soul leaves the body. There's always been traditional Catholic or Christian Catholic teaching. They will go into what is called the particular judgment. In other words, they'll basically be judged by God on the basis of all the things that God takes into account. Some will be purified. We've called that purification process purgatory. It's not in the Bible. Of course, neither is Trinity in the Bible. There's a lot of stuff that Christians believe that's not in the Bible. They don't realize it. But it's a purification that occurs. Now, what exactly that purification is, how it works, we don't know. We just don't know. Some, for example, maybe a martyr or someone who was baptized right at the moment of death, if they have been close to God all their lives or even close to God at the end, they'll probably go straight to heaven. The other alternative ain't good. All right? If you're being judged on the basis of how you lived and loved and knew God on the basis of what you knew, well, let's just hope. Let's just hope that you pursued in some way knowing God, loving God, living according to what you know. Even if you were raised someplace where they didn't talk about God at all, perhaps your own conscience guided you. So that said, to distill all this, JR, after death, you stand before God. And again, that's a human analogy. We don't stand before anybody because we're just a soul at that point. But we are being judged on the basis of our life, our faith, our relation to God. Some will go to eternal separation from God. Some will go to being with God forever. And some, most, will have to go through a various amount or intensity, if you will, of purification. Because there's a verse in the Bible that says, nothing with sin shall stand before a holy God. Well, I know if I were to die this afternoon, I still got a lot of sin. That's part of me. So I'm going to have to be purged of my self-love. And perhaps, as our Lord said, you will be held accountable for every idle word you speak. So maybe, oh boy, this could be rough on me. I will find out about every idle word I spoke. But I will have to be purified, and so that I can indeed be with the Lord and pure. Does that clarify it somewhat for you?
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what I've heard, but I also heard other things about that situation of purgatory.
Well, purgatory, we don't know exactly how it works. I mean, they used to think it was, a temporal thing, time bound. But we don't know. Could happen in a flash. It is, what we do know is this. It is a purification of what is still left in us. It is sinful. It is a purification of our self-love. We are purified, in essence. I don't know about you, JR, but I would very much like to be purified. I don't want to be like I am when I'm in heaven. I want to be a very different, better person. C.S. Lewis draws this illustration. He says, it'd be like someone muddy, torn clothes, being invited to a wedding feast. And he was invited in, and he said, well, sir, if it's okay, I'd rather be cleaned up first. I don't want to come in like this. And I think that's a way to view purgatory. I'd rather be cleaned up first. I don't want to go to heaven like I am right now. There's too much about me that needs to be fixed and changed and cleaned up. All right, my friend?
Yeah, that's better.
Are you someone who is not Catholic and who is having trouble with the whole idea of something called purgatory?
Yes.
I would figure that. You would say, well, where is it in the Bible? Well, first of all, purification after death has always been a Christian teaching all the way back to the apostles. Okay, there are verses in the Old Testament that the Protestant Bible does not have, these chapters, but they were part of what they called the Greek Septuagint, which was a very, very common Old Testament. Jesus used it. There is a verse that says, it is a holy and wholesome thought to pray for the dead, that they might be loosed from their sins. All right, that's in Maccabees. St. Paul in the New Testament says, we will pass through a cleansing fire, and the wood, hay, and stubble will be burned off. That's always been understood early on in Christianity as, yeah, that's the stuff about us that we need to get rid of. So, in fact, and the Jewish people had something they called the Mourner's Kiddush, which is a period of time, I forget how many months it was, I think it was 9 or 11 months, where they prayed for the dead. And as far as we know, Jesus never spoke against that. He just didn't say, well, that's dumb. You're going straight to heaven. JR, thank you. Thank you for asking those questions, my friend. God bless you. This is Dr. Ray, 877-57 equal, bottom of the hour. Got time? Give me a call. Want to talk to you. Playing the jug. I went to my doctor. I was having some trouble with my short-term memory problems. First thing he did was make me pay in advance. Lisa Marie calling from New Jersey. This, I think, piggybacks upon what I was talking about in my opening monologue about how the Mass is, to modern sensibilities, especially among the young, too slow-moving, too reverent, too repetitive. And I think Lisa Marie has a situation that it had the exact opposite effect on a guy. Hi, Lisa Marie.
Hello, Dr. Ray. Dr. Ray, you did a fine job with a difficult topic of purgatory just now.
Well, thank you, my dear. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was thinking how when I was listening to you, I was on hold, and Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And so I don't think I'm pure in heart. I don't think I'm pure love. And I don't think anyone who is not pure love can be in the presence of pure love, right? I don't know.
So you're not like an Ivory soap, 99 point whatever it was % pure?
Not since probably the day of my baptism, Dr. Ray.
Right after. You were 6 weeks old and right after you committed a sin.
Oh, I used to cry and scream all the time. Anyway, yes, going back to what you were talking about initially on the program, I was very happy to hear that because I sometimes feel, a little less than charitable when I see some of the evangelical services or with someone and, they're doing like a public grace before a meal and holding hands and whatnot. And I always think, well, maybe that's really, good for them. And anyway, so at this homeless shelter I volunteer at, there's a young man who went through this program to become clean from drug abuse, and now he's working there. And I was having a mass said for another young man who unfortunately had overdosed. And so I asked this the original young man if he wanted to come with me to the mass. And it was a morning, Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. mass, no music, no bells and whistles. I would say just, but then that would be saying just.
It was just a mass, right?
It was just
stripped down mass.
Blood, soul, and divinity. But anyway, I gave him so much credit for coming, and I sit right in the first row over to the side, and he joined me there. And then we went out for breakfast, and he told me that in this program, they do go the non-denominational, sort of evangelical way with once saved, always saved, and by grace alone, and all of this. And it is, working, beautiful. There's beautiful results from this. So I'm not finding fault with it. But what he told me was when sometimes he's at the services and the emotion level is like super high, he would even have to feign that kind of emotional experience because he didn't want to appear as a non-believer or
appear unmoved,
or loving Jesus less.
Unmoved by it all, huh?
Yes. And he said that mass was so reverent and so beautiful, and he felt the Lord's presence. And I talked to him about the elderly people that were there, and I have to be careful with that expression because I'm right behind them now.
Yeah, he's talking about me too.
They're there every single morning, and I said they're just my heroes because they come every morning to Holy Mass. They go to confession regularly. They've buried their spouses. Some of them have buried children. They've been through so much, and they're just joyful, and they exude a love for the Lord without, all of those bells and whistles. So I was really glad to hear you say that as well. Holy Mass, there's just nothing like it.
I run into my mind wandering at Mass. Mm-hmm. I can look behind the priest, and if I see a crack on the wall, I think, how'd that crack get there? I got a crack just like that in the garage. You could probably spackle that. It's probably not that wide. No, you'd probably have to get some kind of filler. No, I'll do it this Saturday. Oh, no, I'm going to the game this Saturday. That's right. Well, they're playing. No, they're only 2 games out of first. Okay, well, I'll just get the game, and then I can do that maybe on Monday. And from a crack in the wall, I'm gone to the game, and I wake up at some point and go, oh, yeah, we just finished the prayers for the consecration, and I missed most of them.
Oh, boy.
I have to keep bringing myself back all the time.
Yes. And people might think I'm some kind of holy roller being up there in the first pew. But if I'm in the second pew, something someone's wearing in the first pew is going to distract me. So I need to be as close as possible, for sure.
Well, see, you like ordinary time because the priest wears green pretty much the whole time for about 20-some weeks,
Yes.
Well, I think that's awful sweet, and I think that you bring up a great point, which is, and this was when I would go to Pentecostal type things. It was at Newman Center at Case Western, but they had a very Pentecostal approach. And one time, all the kids just started speaking in tongues. I mean, it was like mass folie à deux. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting there going, I'm not really feeling like I'm speaking. I don't know what's going on here, and I'm not. But I had enough. I don't know what's the word you want to look at. I suppose self-presence to say I'm not going to do that if it's not natural.
Right.
So what happened? The priest afterwards got the kids, and they all prayed over me that I would, in essence, sort of, I guess, have that experience or whatever it was. But you're so right. It can definitely be this is how I'm supposed to be in this situation. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who think, okay, I'm supposed to put my hands up in the air and wave them back and forth. I don't feel like doing that. I really don't want to do that. That's not me, but that's kind of what you got to do. Yeah, social pressure is huge, all and everywhere, not just in the religious experiences, everywhere.
And perhaps this is why the multiple baptisms, because they continually need that like jolt of emotion. Whereas, thank God, we have the Eucharist and we have that feeling of absolution, that knowledge of absolution when we leave the confessional. The sacraments and the grace is there for us. We're just so blessed.
Okay, my dear. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for the call, Lisa Marie.
Thanks, Dr. Ray. God bless.
All right. Bye. All right, taking a break, and we'll take our last call, Dr. Ray.
Welcome to Advanced Dentistry Center family. This is Dr. Metti, and our team strives to treat you like family in a loving and compassionate way as we focus on serving you in a Christ-like manner. We do this by emphasizing prevention and general well-being for a lifetime. Our private practice is small, personal, state-of-the-art, and innovative, with the goal to educate and motivate our patients in improving their oral health. It is through a partnership with you that you will achieve the goals for your smile. Advanced Dentistry is serious about the level of care we provide, with attention to details and an exceptional level of care, skill, and judgment. We are thrilled for the opportunity to serve you.
Dr. Matty and the team invite you to visit them at advanceddentistrycenter.com or call them at 248-594-9592. That's 248-594-9592. AdvancedDentistryCenter.com.
As we read in the book of Exodus in chapter 4, Moses kept trying to tell God that he was the wrong person for the job. He wasn't equipped, he noted, to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. He kept giving God excuses, including that he was not a good speaker. Moses was self-conscious of his speech problem. "I'm a poor speaker, slow and hesitant," said Moses to God. But God did not back down. He knew Moses could do the job because God would equip him to do so. God sent Aaron to do the speaking for Moses. God created Moses for a purpose, and each of us for a purpose. We're all perfect creations in the eyes of God. When God wants his will be done, he will give us the tools to do his will. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. What is God calling you to do today? This has been a Christ-Centered Communication Message. I'm Vanessa Denhagarmo, a communications evangelist and host of Epiphany.
All right. Last few minutes. Hi, Bernadette.
Hi, Dr. Ray. Thanks for taking my call.
Certainly, as Curly would say. Of course, you probably don't know Curly either. Boy, oh boy, just having a heck of a time relating to all you young people.
Now I live under a rock. I don't know who that is.
Curly, the Three Stooges?
Oh, okay. I didn't know his name. I don't know any other names by heart.
What kind of youth did you have?
Secular, worldly, unfortunately. At least when it came to entertainment.
Your mom's got herself a ticklish situation, doesn't she?
Yes. She teaches RCIA, and one of the, I don't know what you call him, one of the candidates is a biological male, identifies as a transgender female. He's been baptized Catholic but wants to receive Holy Communion, confirmation, and reconciliation. And he does seem to really love what he's learning about the faith. He comes to Mass faithfully, doesn't receive communion. But it hasn't been addressed yet that he can't be a transgender and a faithful Catholic at the same time. So my mom's just not sure how to even approach the topic with him.
Would she get some consulting from Father?
Yeah, he's not really sure either.
Oh. Well, she's probably, if Father's handing it off to her, if he's saying, you're teaching RCIA, you handle it, then probably she needs to make sure she understands the essence of the church's teaching on this. There's a lot of ways she can get that. Has she explored that already?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think she's explored, so she's clearly repeating what the church teaches about this. And then she explains it to him, and she asks him first. Let's get him to explain himself. She asks him first, how long have you been trans? What do you think this means for your relationship with the church's morality about these things? And if he says, I don't really understand it, I don't know, I never thought about it, I thought it would be perfectly fine because this is who I really am. I'm really a woman. If I was born in the wrong body, and this is the way it is. And then she can say, well, what would you do? What would be your reaction if you found out that the church cannot confirm that? The church cannot say, this is perfectly fine, no problem whatsoever. Now, I don't doubt that there would be some pastors who would say, no, that's who he is, let's let it go, and we need to understand and be tolerant. But what's important is not what necessarily an individual priest would say, it's what the church would teach on this. And I got to admit, I don't know the nuances on this. And I hope I'm not wrong about this. Somebody correct me real fast if I am. But I think your mother is correct. And if the priest is telling her, I don't quite know how to handle it either, then she's going to have to take him aside and sit down, explore with him all of this. Has he had gender reassignment surgery?
He comes across that, I think it's clearly, I haven't seen him. He looks like a male, but he's probably at least taking hormones to appear feminine.
Okay. So if she could explain to him, if you decide to discontinue the hormonal intervention and you go back to your biological sex with a good confession, you would be perfectly able to be in the Catholic Church. I would ask him what he understands, if he understands any of it. My guess would be he thinks it's no big deal. My guess would be that he thinks, what's the problem here? I'm finally who I am, and I think the church would appreciate that and celebrate it. So I don't understand. I think she's got to explore that and find out exactly where he is, as opposed to saying to him, you realize that if you're going to stay with this particular gender issue, it could cause real problems for you entering the church. Explore it first with him.
He doesn't even know. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, honey. Go ahead. She doesn't even know what.
His biological name. So, when it comes time to ask for his baptism certificate, for example, is that how you would start by asking, starting the conversation?
She could. She could start.
Your name,
she could start any way. What's he go by now? What names he use?
Starts with an M. It is feminine. I don't know.
Okay. So say Melanie. Let's just say Melanie. And so he says, well, my name is Melanie. Well, what was it when you were born? What was it when you were baptized? Well, I was baptized Mel. Okay. So you're no longer Mel? In other words, your mom's got to kind of explore with him what he thinks all this means regarding him being fully in communion with the Catholic Church. And she can stress to him, look, we're not saying you're a wretched reprobate that's going to roast in hell. That's not our call. That's not the church's call. But we are saying the church has certain standards regarding sexuality. And this is one that could pose a roadblock. And if he says, well, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am to join the church, any church like that. There's other churches who would accept me. Okay. Yeah, she's going to have to find out. It's a very interesting thing. Bernadette, thank you. This is Dr. Ray. I'd like to talk more about that, but I can't because Andrew is nagging in my ears. 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds. Okay, I got to go. Thank you so much for joining me. Be well. Walk with God. All the way to 1 hour after your death.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.